for me, it was like I would think I hit the bottom. I would ask, is this all? Is there more? No, there's not. Then, 2 or 3 days later, I'd find out there's more. And that's just the absolute like breaking of a person. And what I know now as a coach and what he knows now is like that's the worst way to do it is to have repeated disclosure after disclosure after disclosure, because trust is essentially eroded, and safety, my world has been turned upside down. I was totally shattered, broken, literally like on the floor. Like I don't remember. Uh, I couldn't tell you what kind of noises were coming out of me when I discovered some of the worst of it, but it is still the most devastating thing that I have experienced was that discovery. And
It is the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast.
So why would I walk away if God said I can handle it? If He has endowed me with dunamis power that lives in me, how can I live defeated?
But one of the things that I realized was that I'm a person too.
You're in the wilderness and you don't even realize it.
And so now we walk around with the spirit of offense and unforgiveness and anger and bitterness. And God has to get that stuff off of us first. Thriving Decrees for the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss is a power move. It is packed with thought-provoking, life-changing tools to help you thrive in the kingdom as a wife, as a mom, and as a leader who is seeking to see the fruit of God's promises in her life. Make sure you go to my website at www.clemetradeshay.com and order your copy. Hey, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss. Thank you so much for joining me today on another episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. I have a friend here. I met her last year off of LinkedIn. We met and clicked, and I was like, oh, I got to have you on the podcast. Her story is absolutely amazing, and she's a very kind-hearted spirit. And so I have here Kate Conwell today. And Kate, would you like to introduce yourself?
yeah, thank you so much. You did a great job. I think I'll just add it was such a random God connection that I can't wait to see what he does with our conversation today, because it was kind of, I don't even remember how we connected. We just did. And then we immediately both, I think, or at least I can speak for myself, felt like, okay, she's like a kindred spirit. Like I need to know her a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to this. It's been a while in the making, and you were patient with me to let the timing play out. And I always know God works the timing out to when we have these conversations. So looking forward to it, and I hope I can share my story to help other people feel like they're not alone in whatever they're struggling with, and that's what I think God wants us to do, and that's what I'm here to do today.
Yes. So I do remember we were on LinkedIn and I was like, hey, let's have a coffee chat because you were a coach as well. And I was very intrigued by the type of coach that you were and the name of your business. And so, very specifically, what is your title as coach?
So I am a kingdom coach and a certified Christian life coach, and I work specifically with women who have experienced infidelity. So the name of the coaching company that I started is Journey Beyond Betrayal. And then I also work with an organization called Pure Life Alliance that provides support groups for men who struggle with unwanted sexual behaviors and women who are dealing with betrayal trauma because of those behaviors. So it's a very specific group of people that I work with. And I say, like, you either are my group of people, that like my niche, or you aren't, but you never really want to be. But then when you find me, you're grateful to have found the support that you need. So but I love what I do.
I think that was definitely one of our clicking points was both of our coaching assignments was I don't necessarily like the conversation that we're having, but it's a necessary conversation, and I love the healing aspect that can come from it. And
Mhm.
so for you, let's talk about, I know you can't get into the details definitely of your clientele, but the Pure Life thing, the promotion, or I guess you were hired on at that point, correct?
Yeah, I think like I had just gotten hired or was in the process of being hired when we first met. And so originally Journey Beyond Betrayal was both a community and I was doing the one-on-one support because I really do think community is foundational for like just life in general. But whenever you're going through hard things, I think the enemy wants us to think you're the only person who has been through this, or like you're alone. You know, there's no hope for you. And when you can get connected with a community of people who basically break that lie down and show the truth that you aren't alone, there are people who understand, and there absolutely is hope, then that's so powerful. And so Journey Beyond Betrayal was an online community for women who had experienced infidelity. And I think around the time we connected, I was just kind of getting weary of doing everything alone. And it was just financially, it wasn't working out very well. Emotionally, it was a little bit draining. And I really prayed that God would connect me. I had like 3 very specific prayers, that like ways I wanted God to answer the prayer. And someone had challenged me to be like very bold in my prayers and very direct in my prayers, because I was spending 1 month of prayer over like, what did God want for me? Like, did he want me to continue doing what I was doing, or did he want me to stop or transition? So I was asking him, one, to connect me with like a donor potentially who was like, I love what you're doing, and here I'm just going to help fund it. Or another coach who had a bunch of clients but was like, I can't even handle all of these women. Let's partner and let's do this together. Or a third option was like an organization that was doing like community for men, but was growing the women's side or wanted to launch a women's side of that equation. And so that is exactly what Pure Life Alliance was. They have been around for 20 plus years. They have these men's support groups, and their women's support groups have always been a piece of it, but like have changed and modified a lot more over time, and is definitely growing right now, and something that they wanted to have me help with, and as well as like getting their groups online. So since I've joined PLA, they've launched a men's group, then now it's 2 men's groups that are online. So they have a bunch of groups in person, and then women's groups. We launched a new group online as well since I've started with PLA. So I really like the concept of just being with other people who understand, and how that's powerful. So that's what I do with them. And it's awesome because with Journey Beyond Betrayal, I was supporting women, but like I didn't have anything to say, oh, and here's like where your husband can get support that's kind of in the same path or same language or whatever. I had referrals. I would send people to other groups that I knew about, but with Pure Life Alliance, like you and your husband can join a different, a man's support group or a woman's support group and be under the same organization, learning the same language and getting the same type of support. So that's what's really been great about that merger of the community piece of what I was doing before.
Oh, so much in that. Okay, number one, that is big because the narrative that we have now is a lot of women want the healing aspect. So they go to therapy and they do all of this stuff. And men sometimes don't necessarily join that wife in therapy. And so you become unequally yoked in your healing. You have the wife who is getting the healing and the man that's not really getting the healing that he needs. And the fact that Pure Life supplies both of these things, so these men and these women, these husbands and wives can get the help together, but separately, but
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
It's so important. That is so good. I really love that word. And number 2, girl, you said you had to make your prayers very specific. And I think that is very important for a lot of other coaches who may be listening to this. This has nothing to even do with as far as like what your niche is. Just the fact that a lot of the times in coaching, we are doing this by ourselves. And it's exhausting. It can be very exhausting to do all of that. And a lot of the time, people are keeping a 9-to-5 job, like just
Yeah.
just balancing it all out. It can be a lot. And so the fact that you had a very specific prayer and not just the Lord, what is your will for me? What do you want me to do? Like, you were like, Lord, this is what I need so that I can execute your plan. And God is so faithful because when he gives us an assignment, he's going to supply every single thing that we need in order to fulfill that assignment. So I think that is absolutely amazing and enlightening for anyone who is listening.
For sure. And it was, I mean, I was praying more like that. Like, God, what do you want from me? Like, what is next? Like, do you want me to keep doing this? And I shared kind of my month of prayer with another couple of people that are like in my community of support. And one, kind of said, she's like, no, you be like bold, ask like for big prayers. Like, don't just say, oh, like I want one client, be like, God, I need this many, I want 10 clients. Like, and then also specific, as well as like big. And like, so one person said bold and one person said like specific. And so I kind of like combine the two, and like God showed up. And I remember when I was like kind of interviewing for the position, and the executive director, he's like, well, I want you to go and pray about this. And in my head, and he knows this story now, but I was like,
I don't need to pray about it.
I already have been praying. Like, this was the answer to my prayers. And when I got off the interview and told my husband and the other woman who had been, she was also going through a similar transition. My friend Megan and I were praying together, and she and my husband both were like, that is the answer. Like, you've been praying about this. That's the answer to your prayers. Like, what? Yes, we'll all pray about it, but I mean, it's kind of obvious. So, and clearly I took the positions. Here I am.
That is so amazing to see where you started with that and where you are now. Like, congratulations on that. That is absolutely amazing.
Oh,
And listen, your spirit is so beautiful. I know you're doing an amazing job there helping those ladies. So they're very lucky to have you.
Back at
So
you.
let's jump into this story, girl.
Yeah. How did I start to have this niche, right?
How did you start this journey? Talk to us about it.
Well, we'll start a little bit now. I am married 18 years to my husband. We have two amazing boys. One is 12 and one is 14. So that qualifies me as a mom, right? It's a kingdom wife, mom, boss. So that's my qualifications, right?
Listen, full disclosure, if you're one or you're all four, that is great. Like, you don't have to be all four, but you are all four. Go ahead.
I am all four, right? So I'm a believer, I am a wife, I am a mom, and I am a boss babe. So here I am. So my husband and I we met in college, and we both did track and field at the University of Washington, and that's how we met. And we dated on and off during college, and ended up getting married shortly after when we were fairly young. And so we had, because of that on and off, we didn't have, a super solid foundation necessarily going into marriage. So we had a lot of struggles just with personality and understanding what marriage was and all sorts of that. We were in Bible studies together. We were doing couples, love and respect, all of that. And I kind of remember just like struggling and wrestling with some of the stuff that we would learn, and just hoping and praying that God would give us the kind of marriage that I knew he wanted us to have and that I wanted for us to have. And praying at one point, a very specific, I mean, I guess it was maybe not very specific, but I just remember like being broken and saying like, God, there has to be more to marriage than this. Like, do whatever it takes, whether that means like changing me or changing him or anything, but there's more to marriage than this. And I cannot keep doing this anymore. This is hard. And that was about 4.5 years into our marriage. At that point, we had our first son, and he was a baby. And so prayed that prayer. And then I would say it was like 3 or 6 months later that I picked up my husband's phone and saw like messages on his phone between him and another woman that no wife ever wants to discover. I wasn't specifically snooping for that. We had been working together in a job, and so I picked it up because that's what we did. Not thinking or even looking for anything other than like, who just messaged him so I can get back to them. Well, didn't get back to that woman, but I did, confront him about what was happening, and that was the starting point of like untangling so many lies and deceptions, and essentially the base of our marriage was all rooted in these lies and deceptions of that had gone back from before we were even engaged. And so I discovered, he had been messaging with other women. He was addicted to pornography. He had been physically unfaithful, and, emotionally wasn't really involved in like an emotional long-term affair, but like just all sorts of betrayal and deception and infidelity that came out over the course of like 2 to 3 weeks. For me, it was like I would think I hit the bottom. I would ask, is this all? Is there more? No, there's not. Then, 2 or 3 days later, I'd find out there's more. And that's just the absolute like breaking of a person. And what I know now as a coach and what he knows now is like that's the worst way to do it, is to have repeated disclosure after disclosure after disclosure, because trust is essentially eroded, and safety, my world has been turned upside down. I was totally shattered, broken, literally like on the floor. Like I don't remember. I couldn't tell you what kind of noises were coming out of me when I discovered some of the worst of it, but it is still the most devastating thing that I have experienced was that discovery. And luckily, my husband was immediately like repentant once everything came out. I mean, and even before it all came out, he was very repentant and very much wanted to stop his behavior. He just had been stuck in it, and there's an addictive component for him, and he wanted to be done with it but just didn't know how. And so the possibility of losing his family was, the tipping point for him and his rock bottom that allowed him to start moving forward into freedom and the pursuit of that at whatever that took. And so he was very willing to do that and immediately started to do that, and to try to get other people involved and figure out what he needed to do to salvage his family. On the other side, I don't know if I want this family his husband at least, anymore. And so being like totally broken, I was able to recognize that for myself, like this is something that's bigger than I can handle on my own. And this is, I have just lost, like my whole world essentially has just crashed down, and now what am I going to do about it? Like, and I don't even know where to start, because who's equipped to deal with that? Like, you don't expect this in your life. You don't expect this in your marriage. And then when it happens to you, I tell people a lot, like there's not like, and nobody is prepared for this, because it always comes out of the blue. And then there's not like any preparation that we've done. People will say, oh, you don't know, like childbirth, it's so hard and painful. But one, people are talking about that outwardly. And two, it's like there are ways that we know how to deal with that, and we prepare for that. Like nobody's preparing for something like this. So you don't have any concept with which to navigate it when you've started. And so I just was able to kind of step away from my life and get some support. I took my son and I back to where we had just moved from, and was surrounded by a community of like faith-filled women who let me kind of grieve and take care of me and walk with me however I needed it, practical support like providing meals and childcare, as well as, just letting me kind of process. I also started reading some books about what was going on, and learning about, sexual addiction and infidelity and how that impacts a woman, why men kind of do these things, and what it looks like for them to choose healing. And was able to recognize that my husband was doing a lot of the things that he needed to. I tell women, and is like integrity is built with consistent behavior over time. And so you can watch your husband to see what he's doing. And I could see things in my husband that he was starting to do the things he said he was going to do, and he did have accountability, and he was following through on the things that were going to help us make progress. So after a couple of weeks, I went back to where he was living and we were living separately, but decided, okay, I'm willing to try to rebuild our marriage. I'm not committed to like for saying yes, like I'm in this. Some people, that's their story. I very much was. It was a process to go from like broken to like saying I forgive you and we're gonna stay married forever. But I did recognize he was doing the things he needed to do. I had started doing the things I needed to do, and so we were able to work with a couple who kind of walked with us through the healing process, supporting him individually, supporting me individually, and then teaching us what it looked like to heal from this and how to just be married, because honestly we didn't have a good foundation of like, what is a man's role as a husband, what is a wife's role as a wife. Like, we had done premarital counseling and read those books, but nobody had really walked with us individually or together with like our specific challenges, and that's what this couple did for us. And really, we would not be married. I couldn't have said I've been married 18 years to this man without Paul and Delwyn and their help. I mean, they were just a gift from God and all the things that they did for us. And we believe that God ordained us to be where we were when I discovered this, so that they could be the people that walked with us through it. Because there's a whole bunch of other like logistical things I didn't say about why we were living where we were living and could be supported by this particular couple that really made all the difference for us. But he continued to pursue healing. His actions continued to align with his words, and they have over time. And I was able to, work through my grief and my healing and figure out what it looked like to rebuild trust and offer forgiveness and all of the things that come along with healing, navigating triggers, and all of that. So eventually, I mean, it was probably 6 or 8 months, which I don't like to share timelines because everybody's timeline is so unique. But until I was like, okay, like I'm committed moving forward to making this marriage work, and we've been able to do that now. It's like 13 years ago, essentially almost 13 years ago, 12 and a half, we went through the discovery. And so we've been able to rebuild, and I think we have an amazing marriage now, and neither of us would be the person that we are without what we've gone through. So God really did answer that prayer, like, change me, change him, change the marriage. And now here we are.
So that'll make your sound like 15, 16.
So the one was 1 when it came out. So he's 14 now.
Okay.
And then the one was conceived during the healing process. So he is 12.
Okay. Oh, so
Yep.
it sounds like whenever your husband was telling you these things, like he was getting relief, but he was afraid to tell you because he didn't know like how you were going to respond. Is why he didn't say it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you follow music the way I don't know if you know who Mary is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Erica Campbell. And she's like, why do you keep telling me this little bit by little bit by little bit? You tell me a little bit and I try to heal, and then you tell me a little bit and then I
Yeah.
try to heal. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt all of her pain on that. I was like, I can only imagine because it's like a prolonged torture at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it wasn't a long, long time in between. This is days. Like, the whole thing came out over probably 2 to 3 weeks, as opposed to, I don't know her story specifically. I know her music, but I don't know her story but it sounds like it came out and then she would try to heal. Like, there was no healing happening in between all of this. For me, it was just hit the bottom, think it's the bottom drops like even lower. Like, now I think I'm at the bottom drops again, and you're like, I thought I was how could I go any lower? I was already at the bottom, and so that was really what my experience felt like, because it did come out like in a short period of time. It just didn't come out all at once. But it's very common for the reason you're saying, like, men, they don't want to hurt the woman. I mean, the women are also, I'm just going to speak for my story. Like, men want to protect the woman, and they're not ready to face the full brunt of like, what have I done? And that amount of time is different for different men, like how long it takes to get to that place where they'll just be like fully honest and willing to accept the like weight of all that they've done and acknowledge it. But the feeling my husband would explain, which I'm at a place now where I can have like empathy for this. You know, if you're in the midst of this, I get that this won't feel any relief, but essentially he was feeling like, if you know this about me, you won't love me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was too scared to lose me. So he wasn't being honest, because it wasn't because he didn't love me that he wasn't telling me the truth. It was because he loved me and didn't want to lose me, that he was afraid to show me the whole truth of who he was. And ultimately, like, what this couple that walked with him through this and told him was, you have to be on, like, you have to build a foundation of honesty and start all over, and you have to do it for yourself. Like, you can't do it because you want her to come back. This has to be done for yourself. And so that was, for him, I mean, it took a little bit of time to get there, but that was ultimately what he decided relatively quickly was, I'm going to do this because it's what I need to do and what I want to do. And I hope that my wife comes back, but I'm committed to this whether or not she comes back, because I don't want to be this man anymore. And I want to be the person that I am. Like, outwardly, I want to be that person inwardly too, and have integrity so that, you know, my word, like, people can believe I am who I say I am, and I am living who I want to be to the best of my ability.
Okay. So when we see people, we see all types of relationship issues on social media. We see it in our communities. We see it all around. And so for me, I was always like, if my husband ever cheated on me, like, that's it. I'm out. Like, it's not even, like, there's no
Yeah.
question. I'm out. And he's always known that. So when infidelity did happen in our marriage, I was ready to walk away. Like, I was out. I was like, all right, this is it. Like, we're good. We're done.
Mm.
But because I seek to honor God, I sat before the Lord and I said, what do you want me to do? And when he told me to stay, I cried and I said, why?
Yeah, for
I'm like, why do you need me to stay? And
Mhm.
so out of that process, so I love the healing journey that everybody goes on. I think that the healing part of what happens after is so beautiful, but everybody's story is different. And so
Right.
I didn't really have anybody to walk me through this. Literally my healing journey came from me spending time with God and sitting before the Lord and hearing
Mhm.
his voice in certain matters, and him teaching me how to still honor my husband when I
Mhm.
did not feel like he deserved the honor. And
Yeah.
so in this season, that is who he has me coaching, is wives who are having a hard time struggling with that honor, because it's like, why do you want me to honor this man? This man did not honor his vows as a
Mhm.
husband. And
Mhm.
so it was very hard, but just sitting before him and asking him and allowing him to teach me how to walk as a wife. And I'm like, man, if I would have had me what you say, a Delwyn in a
Yeah. Yeah. Paul and Dylan.
man,
Yeah.
because that community and that support is so important. Now, I did have a couple of people like I could have a conversation with.
Mhm.
He definitely told me I needed to go to therapy, so I did go to therapy.
Yeah.
There was definitely a process there that had to happen, but it was so different from what it was that you go through. But my question becomes, how does your husband feel about you talking about the situation now?
Now, like, on a podcast, you mean?
Like, anywhere,
Yeah.
because a lot of the times when I'm, like, talking and giving this information, I am a little bit careful because I think he's still going through a healing part of what
Yeah.
happened. So I'm wondering how your husband feels about it.
I mean, and that's a great and thoughtful question. He part of my husband's healing process, which I don't recommend to do the way we did it, like, per se, was bringing into the light what he had done. And he told a lot of people what had happened. And because part of his struggle, like I said, was people don't like me for who I am. People think I'm this person, but I'm really this person, and they wouldn't like me or accept me if they knew who I really was. And so part of him finding freedom was sharing what he had done with people that were a part of our life, probably more people than he needed to do that with, or would recommend. And I really think we had God's covering over that, because there were, like, I mean, not to say that we didn't get any negativity from people or lack of support or any of the mean and just, like, uninformed. I think I would like, that's how I classified it. It's uninformed opinions about what's happening most of the time. Uh, we don't remember getting a lot of that. And in what we did get didn't like impact us significantly. So be careful who you tell and how many people you need to have people that know, but it doesn't need to be everybody. But he had told a lot of people, so it was out there. Most of the people who were involved in our life at that point knew what was going on because he told them, or maybe I told them if they were, my friends. So that kind of paved the way to make it easier for me to talk about it now, because it's not necessarily like shocking news to anyone. Of course, we have different people in our community, but our belief and what Delwyn kind of, I wouldn't say prophesied, but kind of spoke over us was like, if you let God use your story, then he will use it. And so my husband's kind of thoughts on this is like, if anyone asks me to share, then I'm going to share. If God gives me an opportunity to use my story, as much as I don't want to talk about the dirty parts of my life and the things I would rather keep hidden, like if someone asks me, I'm gonna do it because that's what he's doing. And so when someone asks me, like I also have permission to do that as well. And we've shared our story together. And he's spoken at church events, about his story and in men's groups. And so it's not something that we specifically try to keep hidden. We're very public about what we do, especially now that I'm doing what I'm doing. And there's times when people will say like, oh, what do you do? And, when you meet that new person and they're asking like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I coach, I'm like, oh, I coach women, or I'm a life coach. And this is what I would used to say before I worked for Pure Life Alliance. And now I'm like, oh, I, provide support groups for men and women who are struggling. And then he's like, tell them what you do. Like he'll give me the like, be more specific about what it is that you do. But it's just an awkward thing sometimes to like drop on someone who's like, oh, what do you do? And they're thinking like you're going to be like, oh, well, like I work in an office and, I do logistics or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, I help people whose husbands have had affairs, or the man who's struggling with unwanted sexual behavior. Like it's not what they're like prepared for necessarily. Even when you're willing to like share it, it's kind of like that. Where is this conversation going to go? And like, we're not at that level where you need to know my story. And what I've learned though is that people don't always connect it to my story. I think when I say that, it's basically saying, oh, my husband had an affair and that's why I do what I do. But people don't make that connection immediately like I think they do. But yeah, my husband is very much okay with me sharing our story because he shares it as well.
I think that definitely goes back to either I'm for you or I'm not, right?
Yeah.
I coach wives out of beyond betrayal and
Yeah.
infidelity. Yeah, that is definitely what can we say that is? That's an icebreaker.
Yeah. It's like, oh, let me just drop this on you. And not just like, even if they don't assume it's my story, it's kind of like an awkward, like they can be like, oh, I mean, some people respond really well and they're like, oh, that's amazing. And I get also like just this silence of like, I don't know what to say next, which is not my problem, but it's still, right. You're like, okay, let me just kind of rephrase this so we can kind of just skip over a little bit.
The place that you guys were when you found out about infidelity, are you still living in that place?
No, we actually moved like shortly after. That was part of what like Paul and Delwyn suggested as in our healing. Like one of the things my husband had not quite done yet was like leave and cleave. And we were living near his family. And so they were like, you need to like leave. It doesn't have to be forever, but you do need to get some separation from your parents and your family so you can establish like, this is our family. Like this is Will and Kate and our family. And not like we're just an extension of like the, I don't know how to say this.
No, I got you. Extension of what you grew up with. Like we have
to
and come
to just build your own thing. You need to like leave and cleave, and you haven't done that well. And so we moved to where my family was living, and lived in Portland. We were in the Seattle area. We moved to the Portland area and we lived there for 8 years. And now we've been in Texas for 5 years almost.
Oh my gosh. That's such a journey. I feel like it's a journey of pain. It's a journey of betrayal, but of course, it's a journey of healing. And there are a lot of wives out there who suffer in silence. Some of them I know just miserably staying in a marriage after infidelity because they really don't know how to heal from the situation. The healing aspect is so important. And so, like for me, like I said, girl, it was grit over here. Like it was like God, what in the world? And before I would know it, like Holy Spirit would almost like cuff my mouth sometimes because I would want to say stuff that, I was feeling in my heart, but it was definitely unhealed things and it wasn't going to help advance or heal the situation.
Yeah.
And so for wives who are just in the situation to where they don't necessarily, I believe a lot of wives feel like they're healed, but they're not necessarily healed. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Did you go through that for a while?
Uh, I mean, it's been so long. Sometimes it's hard for me to look back and like recognize the different stages of healing
Oh,
for
we
myself.
call that so much grace of God to where
Yeah.
he doesn't even allow you to really remember certain aspects of that
Yeah,
time so that
the
you can stay
details.
healed.
Yeah, but I think for sure. I mean, it's very normal because healing isn't like I'm neither healed or I'm not healed. It's a process. It's a journey. And so you can be at different stages on that journey, and it doesn't mean you haven't, like, if you start here, like maybe you're here, that doesn't mean you have to be all the way here to say, oh, I'm healed. It's like I'm this much healed and like I'm still working on it. And no one is going to be fully perfect this side of heaven because we're not Jesus.
Or not.
And so it looks different. And I mean, there's definitely things I could probably, if you ask me 2 years from now, I could say, oh, well, I've healed more. Like one of the things that was huge in my healing journey was the understanding, like, I'm not in control. I really thought I was in control. That was
Oh,
one big blow up of my life that revealed in a very like obvious way, like, you are not in control of your life. Like, you thought maybe you were in control, and that mindset had worked really well for me. It's great for goal setting and athletics to say, like, well, if I do this, I'm going to get this. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to get that. Or I'm working for this, and so I'm going to do XYZ and I'll get that. Well, that doesn't work.
surrender. The
Yeah.
surrender part of the healing journey is so hard.
Right. And so to say, oh, I'm totally healed now and I recognize I'm not in control, that would be a lie because I still struggle with that. Like, yes, I recognize I'm not in control and God has shown me and grown me a lot in that area. But do I still have room for learning and growing and healing? Absolutely. Like, I don't get to control my husband. I don't get to control even my kids, who I have some level of actual control over. They make their own choices too. And so learning to let go of control, to surrender, that is an ongoing journey, and I will be on for the rest of my life. But did I recognize it and learn and grow? Like, could I have said, oh yeah, I'm not in control. I would have said that, I 10 years ago, but not to the level that I can say it now, because God has also used other situations since then to help me with that. So I think healing is really a process, and it's okay that, like, at some point you're like, unhealed things were coming out of my mouth. Yes, because, like, we're imperfect people, and there's there's still times I'm sure unhealed things come out of my mouth because
Oh, I was just
you
about to ask you that. I was
well,
just about to ask you that because number one, comparison is so awful in these situations because,
Mhm.
like we've just discussed, like my healing journey is not going to look like yours. Like
Yeah,
God deals with us differently, but there, and my one of my mentors says this all the time. She was like, "The enemy comes back to check. The
yeah,
enemy
for
came back to
sure.
check." And this is not just you. This is also your spouse. The enemy, the girl will come back to check to see if he's actually done and come back to check to see if she can still get in. And with us, the enemy comes back to check to see if we've actually forgiven. And so recognizing those trigger moments where you have to be like, okay, I have to forgive again. Or when he's imperfect and it's like, Like it brings up, it wants to bring up every single thing
Yeah.
that you struggle with. And I know that people say love keeps no record of wrong. That's true, but there's still this history on the inside of me of the things that have gone on. And I'm not using the record of wrong to defend myself or to attack my husband, but there are moments, where people have to go and they have to forgive again.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, I to to say that I like it doesn't cross my mind. Like what you said about, oh, he should always treat me nicely. I'm like that crosses my mind. Like, you had an affair. Like, you should never ever be mean to me. Like, right? But that's not a healed thought. But again, it's a
real thought.
human thought. It's a human thought. And so it's there, and I'm able to overcome it, and not usually say anything out of it, but it does cross my mind, and it does, like, love keeps no record of wrong, for sure, but also we have been hurt, and it's okay to recognize that impact. And so, I mean, what I do myself and what I help other women understand is, like, yeah, if there's something that comes across my mind and maybe that's my thought, right? I'm not going to necessarily say that to my husband, but it is okay for me to say, like, I'm really struggling. Like, I'm remembering what happened, and I forgive you, but, like, this is hard. Like, it still happened to me. And to pretend like it didn't we don't have to pretend it didn't happen. We just have to deal with it in love and grace, right? Rather than, sometimes I think that can go the other direction of, like, well, I just can't say anything at all. And it's okay to talk about it. And I have permission from myself, but also from my husband. Like, if I need to bring something up, like, we just sit and talk about it. And it's hard for him. It's not easy for me either. We don't want to relive any of this, but that's what we believe helps us continue to heal, is bringing it into the light. Because if I just pretend like nothing's bothering me, and I think, oh, well, I'm not supposed to say anything because love covers all and, like, keeps no record of wrong. Well, yeah, that is true, but I am also hurting. And so how can I do that in a loving way where I'm not keeping record, but I am being, like, honest and authentic to myself? And so, I don't get it right all the time,
Ooh,
but
yeah.
I do try to let him know, like, hey, I'm just struggling because this happened in our marriage, and I wish it didn't happen. And I know I'm really grateful for all the things that we have now. And I really wish it had never happened. Like, and he's like, I wish it never happened too, and that way, I think what that does is it unites us against the enemy, because, like you said, the enemy comes back and tries to check. Well, when you can get on the same team as your husband, and it's you and your husband against the attacks of the enemy, like, he's not going to win, right? But sometimes we need to be in those attacks together, and not just, like, me trying to fight and tell the enemy, no, I'm healed. It's like, no, we are healed. Like, we are against you. It's me and him against you, not you against me and you against him. Like, it's you against us, and we already beat you because we are still here.
Still
So,
here. Yeah. I think that is such a key factor that you said, that a lot of women don't realize in the healing process is your husband is healing too. And so he's still growing, right? And so the things that he didn't do before, and us wives are like, he better get this right because he made this mistake, and so he better get this right. And then every time he doesn't get it right, we're triggered. And so we have to, like, fight those feelings again, or a lot of women will just go with those feelings. I'm just saying, like, it is. And so I think that a lot of the times we don't realize, or we don't want to pay attention to the fact that, yes, this happens to both of us, but he's still healing too. In communication, the enemy comes to shut our mouths. Like, we're so bitten with anger, and we're so bitter that we don't want to be honest about what we're feeling, or we're superwoman and we don't want to have these conversations that make us seem weak. Like, we're not being able to take care of the feelings that we're having. And so we keep it inside. And what it does is it just causes a barrier between husband and wife, because I'm over here filled with anger and bitterness, and this man has no clue why I'm yelling at him, or why I want to punch him in the face, or why I'm throwing something at him. And those are the things that Holy Spirit really will come in and just bring to you. Like, he will help you to recognize those things if you just sit before him constantly and ask him to govern your day. The healing process can be incredibly messy, and I think the biggest part of that is forgive again. It's
Yeah.
gonna come up again, and so I love your honesty and your transparency on that. Is like, when it comes up, you just have to forgive again. You just have
Mhm.
to take a moment and say, "Hey, I need a moment," but not act out on what it is that you're feeling.
Yes. Can I add to you what you just said too, is that I think
Yeah.
women often struggle when they have to forgive again and think, I didn't really forgive. And I don't think that that's true. I think that forgiveness is also a process, and you can forgive and then you can have to forgive. It's a one-time decision that has to be lived out daily. And so,
Ooh, I like that. A
uh,
one-time decision that has to be lived out daily. Beautiful.
and there are multiple things too that need to be forgiven, and so it's not like a one and done. Like, it's okay that you have to choose to walk in forgiveness that day. It doesn't mean you didn't forgive back then, because if you decide to forgive in your heart, you've offered the forgiveness. And that doesn't make the pain go away. That doesn't make the impact go away. It just means you're choosing not to walk in the bitterness that comes with unforgiveness. And so there's a lot of women, I think, that think, oh, I didn't do it, or maybe I didn't do it right, or like maybe I didn't really forgive him. But it's like, no, because you're just choose to forgive today. And maybe you're forgiving for something that's not exactly what you forgave back then, because there are continual hurts that will happen. It's like, I may forgive my husband for the infidelity, but then if he says something stupid and says to me like, well, I mean, he never did this, but let's just say one day he was like, well, I did that because of blah blah blah. Well, now I have to forgive him for what he said, as and that's not what he I forgave back here. It's something else that's happened because of that, but it's not directly the thing I already forgave. So it can get like, forgiveness is messy,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's also it is a process, and it's okay to, like, I think sometimes the church gets this wrong, so I'm just gonna say it because I know you have a lot of Christian women. Like, the church can push you to forgive, like, oh, well, Jesus forgave, you got to forgive immediately. And it's okay if it's taking you time. If your heart's desire is forgiveness, but you don't feel like you're there yet, continue to pursue it, continue to lay it at God's feet, and you will get to a place where you can honestly and authentically say that you forgive. And it's okay if it takes time, because like God knows your heart posture and desire, even if you're not like fully walking it out yet. That's okay, because he knows we're human. He knows it anyways, right? Like, there's no needing to pretend or feel pressured into it, as long as you're pursuing it, because it is a very important part of healing, but it doesn't need to be rushed, because then it's not real anyways.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Forgiveness has to be done in the grace of God. Is literally what I just heard. Like, it has to be done in the grace of God. It's not done in my own strength. It's not done in your own strength. It has to be done in the grace of God. And the next part of the marriage, which I'm sure you preach to your wives, is asking God what's next for your marriage. Because there are times when God says, walk away. There
Yeah.
are times when God says that, and there is no shame for that wife who God has told to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But for the wife who wants to stay because God has told them to stay, I have to ask this question, because I can hear a wife saying this: why am I staying if I'm still going to go through all of this? If I'm still mentally going to struggle, if I'm having to go through the healing process, if I'm going to have to forgive again, if I'm sometimes going to be triggered, what is the point of that wife staying in the marriage?
The point of healing is not for your husband, it's for yourself. And
Yes.
so you're going to have to go through the healing process whether you stay in the marriage or not. Exactly what that looks like and what those struggles will be because of your healing process are going to look different whether you stay or whether you go. There are different things you're going to have to navigate, but the triggers, the like learning to trust again, yourself again, like all of that, you're going to have to do that whether you're married to him or not, which was actually, I didn't say this when I was telling my story, but ultimately that's what I decided for myself, was like, I'm so broken. Like, I know I'm not going to be a good mom if I stay like this. I will not be a good wife to anyone. Like, I don't know if I want to stay married to my husband, but I'm like 29 years old. I'm surely not going to stay single for the rest of my life. And so I need to heal for myself so that whoever I'm going to be married to and who like and this son of mine who I already have is going to have a healthy, whole person showing up for them every day. And so my choice to heal was because I didn't want to be in the pain that I was in, and I didn't want to have to navigate the triggers or, the pain and the grief for the rest of my life, because you have to choose to heal. And that choice I don't want to should on anyone, but like it is best done when it's done for yourself. And you're pursuing your own healing because you know that that's what God wants you to do, and God wants you to walk in your wholeness because that's who he created you to be, and you're living out the identity that he already established for you, and you can confidently walk in that victory. It's a victory for yourself, and for some people it is also the victory for your marriage being restored. But like, no matter what, you have to choose the healing for yourself, because that's what's going to keep you showing up when it gets hard and showing up when you don't want to, because your motivation is for yourself, like to be healed and whole, not for your marriage to be healed and whole, because you don't actually have control of that. Which, back to that whole control thing, I'm like, I laid out some very clear and specific things that would need to happen for my marriage to be restored. I was absolutely not in control of what my husband did with that information. I was in control of communicating it, and I was in control of what I did to make sure that I would show up in that marriage as a person who could be working towards restoration. But I wasn't in control of what he did. And so, like you said, to the women whose husbands don't show up, absolutely. Like, it takes two people to choose healing and restoration of a marriage. It takes one person to choose healing for yourself. So I think that is what I would say to those women, and also to the women whose husbands are not choosing it. Like, absolutely, you heard me say at the beginning, a man shows his integrity by, doing his actions and his words lining up. Consistent behavior over time shows you who he is. And if he's showing you who he is, and it's not a changed man, and it's not a repentant man, and it's not someone who's seeking healing, like, it's going to be very hard to make a marriage work with somebody like that. God's desire is for marriage, but it's also for two people who are committed to him and to restoration and to healing and wholeness and being the man and woman that God has called them to be. So I never make that decision for anyone about what to do in their marriage, but there are, and that's for everybody to decide. And I think you cannot choose your husband's healing, but you can choose your own healing. And you will have to if you want to be healed, whether you're married or not.
Yeah, I think at the point where we are seeking to heal the marriage, we are borderline making that marriage an idol. Because we're not seeking to do this because God told us that we needed to heal. And so I think I'm on the messier side of that. Me and my husband are incredibly, we were back then unequally yoked. Like, I had a stronger relationship with God. And so I could sit with God and God would tell me, hey, this is what I need you to do. And here's why I need you to say. I need you to pray. I need you to intercede. And I need you to honor me in the marriage. And I think that aspect of it can be incredibly hard for a wife, of just knowing that you're being led by the Holy Spirit, and your husband's he's not bad. He's not doing anything awful, but you just don't see the effort there that you feel like it should be there. But in the same respect, like, you are clearly here having a conversation with God, and God is telling you, hey, I need you to pray and I need you to intercede. That is where healing for yourself really needs to happen, because it's going to be hard to pray for your husband when you're broken on the inside, because when whatever God reveals to you to pray for that man, you're not going to want to do it. You're going to be like, nope, I don't want to pray that for him. So that was such a beautiful answer of just allowing the wife to understand that the healing aspect is for you. I said the same thing. You're going to go through it. Either way, you have to go through a healing process. And for me, I know my answer was, okay, God, in which way do you want me to heal? Do you want me to heal over here, or do you want me to heal over there? So such a beautiful answer, such a beautiful story. I do love your journey beyond betrayal, how you and your husband are now and how you're walking as one. Um, it is just such a testament to the goodness of God, or when God speaks a thing, like if we're obedient to what he's instructing, he's going to do the work that needs to be
For
done in the marriage or anywhere else. And
sure.
I absolutely love that. Do you have anything else that you want to share with the community?
I would just say if this is what you're going through, then please seek out community. That's what Pure Life Alliance does. They provide support for both sides of the situation. If you're I mean, you speak to mostly women, but if you're a woman whose husband is struggling with this, like our Healing Haven program was designed to walk with you because we shouldn't have to walk through anything difficult together. So whether it's infidelity or something else, like there are support groups available for all of the kind of things that the enemy wants us to think that we are alone in. And when you can get connected with a group of people who understand what you're going through and are going through it as well, he does not want that for any of us, but it is so powerful. And I really think that community is the answer to a lot of the world's problems, as well as it's God's design for us to be in community with others. So find that group of people who are going to help walk through it with you that get what you're going through.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I agree on the community. We definitely need those people around us that's going to help support us. So, Kate, tell us what you have going on. I know that you are in Pure Life, but you also have your own business.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, tell us what you got going on and how people can get in touch with you if they need you or to join Pure Life.
Okay. So I'll start with Pure Life Alliance. Their website is purelifealliance.com. And the men's groups would be /men and the women's would be /women. You can see all that we have going on there and fill out a get help form if you want to get connected to one of those groups. We have, like I said, groups online as well as in the Pacific Northwest in the Portland, Oregon area. And so please, if you need community, reach out to us and get connected. And then for myself, as far as I work full time with Pure Life Alliance, and then I have a handful of clients that I work with one-on-one because I really do love walking beside women in a more personal way. With Pure Life Alliance, I'm more on the back end of things, but I still like to meet with people face to face and support the healing journey in that way. So I offer one-on-one coaching to women who are looking to rebuild and reclaim their identity after infidelity and work through all of the struggles that we've talked about: triggers, rebuilding trust, forgiveness. Wherever you are, I meet you where you're at and walk with you towards the healing that you desire. And you can find me at journeybeyondbetrayal.com. And our socials are on both websites, so you can find us on social media at Facebook and at Journey Beyond Betrayal, at Pure Life Alliance, same for Instagram. And I would really love to support you if you're a woman who is looking for that individual support. Reach out to me directly, and if you're looking for community support, reach out to Pure Life Alliance.
Beautiful. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and just giving encouragement and motivation to those wives who are in need of it. We appreciate you so, so much. And I am looking forward to see what you have coming up next. Just growing and outreaching to those people who need you.
You never know what God will have you.
Right? Sometimes you just got to say, yes, God. All right, we're gonna go ahead and end this session. And thank you again, Kate, for joining us. You are amazing. And we're gonna say bye. Bye, Kingdom Wife Mom Bosses. Hey, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss. I want to invite you to join me every first Wednesday of the month in the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss Reset Room. No matter what you have going on, no matter what the month before brought to you, We are being intentional about getting into a space where we can be renewed, revitalized, and we can refocus on what it is that we need to be focused and revitalized in to thrive in the journey ahead. I am excited to be able to introduce this space to you where we will be journaling and praying and having thought-provoking conversations, and we will be inviting the Holy Spirit in to lead us every month in our hearts and in our minds and in our spirits so that we can become aligned with the daughters that God is calling for us to be in this next season. And we can do that with the mindset of strength, power, and authority. Make sure you go to my website at www.clemetradeshay.com and sign up. I'll see you there. Hey! I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you catch us every week here on the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, where we are bringing you new episodes, new content, new information, new empowerment, new strategies, and new strength. Until then, I'll catch you next time.